Welcome to the clinical cookout. You know you need it, it's kinda scary, but mental health is necessary. Four educated queens taking the lead, hold their hands and they'll help you succeed. Lay your head back, relax, just like that. Now listen to, learn, and your problems will burn away. Cookout, you know, we got just what you need. At the cookout, your heart and mind we will be. At the cookout.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. We are qualified clinicians who will cover various topics on mental health and will sometimes provide community resources. We are not being paid by any organization for our content, and any information we provide is general and pertains to our own personal experiences. We do not provide psychotherapy, diagnoses, or treatment recommendations on air. Any concerns related to your individual mental health should be directed to your medical and mental health professionals. We are not responsible for others' decisions or the subsequent consequences.
Welcome back to the Clinical Cookout, y'all. It is time for our hot sauce, and we got a good one today. I know this may spark a little bit of controversy. I know this may spark a little bit of controversy, but I think that this is something that's worth discussing. So I was on Twitter, as I usually am, and I was looking at a video of a toddler who was on a coffee table. He was on this little bike thingy on a coffee table, and he got to the edge and fell off. And a lot of parents, some parents were agreeing that it was okay for a child to basically experience a natural consequence of falling off of something to learn their lesson. And then there were other parents who were not as happy about this parent who said that they should learn their natural consequences and that it's okay for them to fall. So I was wondering what the aunties thought about this. And I know y'all got toddlers or had toddlers.
I think that natural consequences is perfectly okay. And I say that with the understanding that parents are not just gonna like throw their kids out to the freaking wolves or alligators and be like, yeah, go in the water with the alligator and get ate up and see what happens. Like, no. But I do think that kids need to learn from natural consequences, because when they become adults, they're not always going to have someone there to protect them. Us as adults right now, we have to learn from natural consequences. We do something stupid, we have to deal with the consequences. So I think that part of that is teaching kids how to become people in this world and how to become adults to a certain extent. I think that we try to protect kids way too much these days. We don't want them to get hurt. We don't want them to make a mistake. Oh no. We don't want them to lose a game. You can't even lose a game at school anymore. Everybody wins. Like, I don't agree with that. I think that natural consequences are totally fine. And that's how that's how you get through life.
Now, see, you went into another realm with that one. I hate that everybody wins mentality. I can't stand that. But as far as should we just let them experience things and get hurt? Given Auntie Keisha's example, I think it's a balance. If you of course, you don't want your child to really get hurt. There's a balance there. But I mean, yeah, they got to learn. They got to learn some way or another. And when they get older, they won't have that insulation from their parents and things like that. So I'm all for natural consequences to an extent. That's what I'll say. Because him falling off that coffee table, even though we looking at it like, oh, it's a coffee table, it's low to the ground. Had he fallen the wrong way, then everybody would have been like, why didn't you protect him? Even the parent would have been like, oh my God. But because he fell and he was okay, we get to call it natural consequences. So, I mean, there are certain natural consequences that track. And then there's others where it's like, nah, maybe you should have stopped that instead. And so you could have avoided possible injury. But overall, I do believe in natural consequences as opposed to, somebody saying, get your ass off that table and spanking his behind. Why? Just let them deal with the fall.
I do not agree. I do not agree. Now, I agree to a certain point if you have already safety proof your house as much as you can, and you've absolutely put in a plan for your child not to get hurt, and they continuously was persistent in pursuing whatever they were trying to do, then I can see natural consequence as a last resort. But in my mind, you are supposed to protect your kids regardless. And I just feel like that's just natural consequences is the end, not the beginning. And I feel like, and this is just from my own clinical personal experience, there are children who are oversensitive, who have sensory systems that are different from other children based on, could be based on prenatal things and other things like that. And there are literally, I literally had a child who would do the absolute most, like touch hot stoves, all of it, and would go back and continue to do it over and over again. Like he didn't care. He did not care. And at this point, the parents were scared because they were like, yo, we done put locks on stuff. We done did this. We done did that. We done did this. This motherfucker won't stop. Like, help me. And after a while, I was like, well, you know what? It might just be a natural consequences, but this was after the fact of continuously trying to protect this kid. And it just didn't work because of his system. Now, he had other stuff going on that I can't obviously disclose, but there was, kids have different sensory systems. And I personally believe that you need to get to know your child to understand the type of things that they do. Some kids aren't exploratory. They just chill, sit down. I mean, I know that's hard to say with a toddler, but there are some toddlers who are like that. And then there's other kids who just like to explore, like to do those things. And I just personally feel as a parent, it's your responsibility to protect them. Now, if you have done everything and you cannot, then that's when natural consequences come into play. That's just my personal belief.
I have never in my life, I have 5 children, baby proofed a home. I'm not baby proofing anything. If
Me
you are
either.
you're a neurotypical
Never.
child, and I got glass. I have a nice home. I don't there ain't no rubber baby bubby bunkers around here. It's straight up real life. There's glass, there's lights, there's things that you can get hurt on, and my kids don't bother them because I've redirected them around things multiple times, and after a while, when you are dealing with a neurotypical child, they do get it. And then when they don't get it, I do let the natural consequence happen. And I tell you, that's a natural consequence. Get somewhere and sit down. Because you know what happens when you are hovering, you become a helicopter. And what do helicopter parents breed is anxious children. So they can't run you can't run around hovering over somebody praying to God they don't hurt themselves all dang on day. Now the kid that you're talking about, Keish, that was a different kind of extreme because you do have to watch out when they can't watch out for themselves. But toddlers typically they learn. So when that little boy was riding the tricycle and rode it right off the table, how many times, or riding whatever off the table, how many times had he probably been told not to do it? And that's always my thing. Well, like, how many times have you been told not to do it? So me actually parenting them being like, don't touch that. Don't bother that. And I have one with ADHD. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, let's see what happens. After they see what happens, typically they have not done it again or they did another variation of it. And I let those consequences happen because it's just a part of growth and development and learning.
Yeah, and I don't feel the need to tell them for everything. Like, so I teach them certain things. Like, it depends on the level of safety. So when it comes to the stove, I tell them don't touch hot, right? When they're little, don't touch hot. They know not to go touch that stove. But other things like bumping into a corner of the table or something, like you gonna bump the damn corner, you gonna realize it hurts, and then you gonna stay away from the corner next time. I don't feel like I need to tell you, oh, the corner's gonna hurt you, baby. Make sure you don't touch it. Make sure you don't hurt yourself. So I think it depends on the level of safety or like what it is. Sometimes I may tell them ahead of time and sometimes they just learn naturally. But I'm a big fan of learning naturally because like I said, as you grow up, that's how you're going to learn. You ain't going to have mommy and daddy there for you all the time.
I definitely didn't baby proof my home. The most that I did do, and that was because of a situation that I knew had happened, both in real life and in a movie, is I put the little covers over the electric outlets. We did do that because I don't know if y'all ever seen The Women of Brewster's Place when that little baby stuck that fork in that electrical outlet and died. That scared me watching that movie, and I knew that that happened to somebody in real life as well. So I did have electrical covers because that's not a game. kids will do that just being experimentative. But everything else, like I knew parents who put the little, Amber just reminded me of it, the little corner things on their table. So if you bump the corner, it doesn't hurt. I was like, I'm not getting those. I'm not doing all that. I bump the corner as an adult and tear my knee up. They'll feel it and they won't do it again.
Like I've been villainized by other mothers, like by the helicopters. You're not gonna baby proof? I'm like, no, I'm not. And my kids is doing the same thing your kids is doing. They not touching stuff. Not because I baby proofed it, but because I say, put it down. Famous for the hear me.
I forgot which comedian said it, but he was like, I was trying to teach my son not to touch the stove, and I said, don't touch the stove now. It's hot. Don't do it. He said that boy put his hand on the stove and said, Daddy. I was rolling. He said, I bet you he knew then. You told him it was hot. He went and touched it to try to test it out, and now he know. He was like, Daddy, hot. I fell out. They'll learn. They will learn.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I was famous for the Abraham too. Me and my husband, we was both the otters, and so like whenever they went towards stuff, like I want you to hear me in your head saying before you do this. Did they always?
Because we come from that. We come from that.
Yeah.
I think my mama did baby proof.
I still be doing that.
Baby proof. We come from generations that didn't do that.
And after a while, you don't have to so loud. Now I can just go and my kids are like, "What I do? What I do? What's going on?" But yeah, Auntie Keish brought up a really, really good point though, that not all kids are neurotypical. Not all kids pick up on things and make those connections. Not all kids have the same sensory systems. But as we go into our main dish for today, we are going to talk about emotionality in children, how children show their emotions, how they respond to other people's emotions. And then with that, we'll talk about, the different presentations of that in children. So let's go ahead and hop into it.
At the cookout, we got just what you need. At the cookout, your heart and mind.
We're going to talk about the emotionality in children, what happens at certain ages, what happens at certain stages, and how parents respond to things. Are parents wrong? Are they right? What's natural consequences? What's natural responses? And what just should not be met all the time with the belt, but should be met with some conversation in kids. And I was giving everybody an example of teenagers. Teenagers like to try you. They like to try and fight you once they get to a certain age. They like to do dumb things in school. They like to embarrass you, essentially. How do we meet with that? How do we rectify that? What does parenting look like today? And why does parenting look so different from the way it used to look than the way it looks today? I'll give y'all an example. Okay. Some teenagers lose their dang on minds and they want to not necessarily attack, but they want to fight back with their parents. They're very oppositionally defiant. Okay, so we know that's a natural part of teenage stages. But how far is too far? I know, like, by the time we hit teenage stages, most teenagers was fighting their parents. Or most parents was fighting their teenagers. I'm telling y'all right now. I'm just gonna say,
where was y'all at where y'all's teenagers and parents was fighting? Because they wasn't doing that where I was at.
Baby, I was about to say,
we wasn't fighting each other.
I was about to say, I knew it happened, but baby, I wouldn't have never in life raised my hand to my mama. Ever in life.
That's why I said some parents was fighting their teenagers. I'm gonna tell y'all straight up. I had some conflict with my mother. I did not grow up in a perfect household. Not about to lie about it. I was attacked. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. But seriously, as I started to get older, we did start to butt heads like that. And emotionality in parents who are not as well emotionally regulated, and emotionality in me who dang show ain't emotion. Well, I'm emotionally regulated now. After learning that, I didn't have that kind of emotional regulation. So there was a time where we were physical. There was a time that there was physical. I know a lot of people that I grew up with. My best friend and her mother was physical at one point in time. There's teenagers who actually fight their parents, and their parents who actually fight their teenagers. It's not always on the teenagers.
This is true.
We wasn't WWE at my house, but we were in direct conflict at home growing up.
Yeah,
That's the way it was.
This is true. And I can say in some cases, like I do know of a particular case where I kind of could justify it. I'm not going to give all the details of that, but you do have some parents that are just, in my mind, parents shouldn't disrespect kids either. If as my parent, you call me out my name, that like that's a problem. Why are you calling me a bitch as my mother or as my father? That's a problem to me. But with me, the only way it showed up for me as a rebellious teenager is I had a smart mouth. I still got a smart mouth to this day. So my mother was one of them mothers with the quick backhand. So as soon as my mouth got smart, my lips got knocked off. We could be driving and her hand would come out of nowhere. This
But
is why I didn't go
that's
no
physical
further.
assault. That's the kind of
That's
stuff we're talking
physical.
about.
But I would have never hit her back because for me, I knew I can't beat my mama. To this day, I don't think I can beat my mama, and she older, but my mom can fight, and I'm all right. But I ain't Tracy. Tracy will whip my ass today, so I ain't doing it. But that's that fear that my mother put in me that I cannot physically beat her. So for me, there is a line. Because like some people would say my mama popping me in my mouth, that's fine. That's no different than spanking. You got different beliefs on spanking. So even when you say that's assault, is it or is it just discipline? Because we say spanking is discipline. So one can't be assault and then one is discipline. Either it's all assault or it's discipline. Now it can go too far, but her popping me in the mouth, eh.
Get it out, Keish.
I agree with Suge as far as growing up, nucking and bucking with your parents. Me and Brenda wasn't the best either growing up, but also me and Suge come from similar backgrounds, so our environments wasn't always what is it?
Peaches
Wasn't
and
always
cream.
yeah, it wasn't always the safest place, and so emotionally, at least for me, so I there were moments where I was embarrassed looking back on what happened, but I also feel like there when an environment is not emotionally safe, when you're living in a single parent family home, when your parent also don't have the tools and skills they need to also parent, because if nobody showed my mom, how the hell she gonna show me? And so
Mhm.
there were things that we had to fight through in order for us to be where we are today. So yes, there are people who do grow up like that. Do I necessarily think it's right? No, I don't think it's right. Brenda was doing what she could do with what she had, and I would never fault my mom for that because she was doing what she could with what she had. And now I'm teaching her differently with my nephew. You don't gotta swing on my nephew. My sister, I teach her different. You don't gotta swing on my nephew. Like, I don't want us to grow up the same way that we grew up. I don't want that to happen. So I think that there are moments where, yes, we can do what our parents are taught us, but when are we gonna start taking responsibility on changing these patterns? That is where I'm coming from. We have to
Mhm.
take responsibility. On top of that, I do think that when we talk about this, and this is the part where it comes with parents changing, if it's assault everywhere else, there's no way in hell you would let your boss smack you in the mouth if you did something wrong. There was no way you'd let your homegirl punch you in the mouth if you did something wrong. And why is it that we teach kids through hitting to correct their behavior? That's called response retribution. That is what that's called. When a kid, and I went through this with training, when the kid is pulling some other kid's hair, we're like, oh, well, let's go pull her hair and she'll stop. And it's like, no, let's teach her an alternative way. Let's figure out why she's doing that and let's change the behavior. I believe that
Mhm.
parents aren't, I don't want to say they aren't. I just feel like there's a lot of old rules that can just be reframed. I'm not saying all of them, okay? But I am saying that there has to be a different mentality, specifically with the black community, because we've learned nothing but hitting, whipping, all that, literally from centuries ago. That's all we know when it comes to corrective behavior. And I feel like there's a chance for us to do it differently. Not right, because I don't think either one's right or wrong. I just said differently, and there's a different path for it. That's all I'm saying. So
I agree with you, Keish. I can't even front. I fully agree with you on that. It's a different way to do it. Um, you, it's all we know. There are different ways, and I think what you and Auntie Shug just said made me think of something that I've been working on with a few clients. A lot of times, we are reparenting our inner child. The entire time, we're reparenting our own inner child. So a lot of times, what I think about, even with my own kids, is if I'm about to respond the way I know my mom or my grandma would have responded, I think as a kid, What response would I have wanted? What response would I have actually needed in this moment? What was I looking for? What was going on? And I tried to come from that angle so that I don't react in the common way that I might. And it helps sometimes. Now, sometimes it don't help, but it helps sometimes. And then as far as teaching them to hit, there's a line to me because take bullies. You teach a kid, find all other alternatives other than hitting, other than reacting that way. I know some situations where some bullies just needed their ass beat to stop. And I understand the idea of, well, that bully, think about what they're going through. I've told my kids, think about what the bully might be going through at home. They might be being bullied, but that only goes so far because at some point I got to protect myself. And some people won't stop until you do stop them. So that's where the line is. You still got to teach your kids how to defend themselves, but you can't be their first bully either.
I 100% agree with you. Can't be their first bully. I think reparenting your inner child is definitely something that sometimes needs to be done. So when you do have a kid with extreme emotionality, do you always have to be like, stop crying or I'm gonna give you something to cry about? No, you don't always have to do that. I think Auntie Amber said before, sometimes it's just easier if I just give them a minute and just listen to them, and then they're just better in that moment. Sometimes you have kids that are not cookie cutter. I think sometimes we talk about cookie cutter kids, and sometimes we get oppositionally defiant kids. And when you have the oppositionally defiant kid, you're a single mother. You don't have the help that you're supposed to have. You don't have the network that you're supposed to have. You don't have the tools or the finances that you're supposed to have. Because we talked about the Black community. A lot of times in our community, we don't have all of those things. So then I need you to go to school and go make it so that you can be better than me. I think a lot of people have these notions. They want their kids to do better. We don't want our kids to be treated with the slave mentality. We want our kids to be better. So we do use those methods.
Make a good point, Shug. You make a good point because I feel like a lot of Black parents are doing it out of I just want better for you
Mhm.
instead of like I really want to whoop your ass. I do think you
Mhm.
make a good point with that. Black parents really do want their kids to make it.
Yeah, and then the biggest fear you'll hear them say is like, if I don't do it, the law is going to do it. So
Mhm.
we sometimes equate hitting with discipline, and hitting can be discipline immediately. I think we never think about the lasting effects. But I'm for a good ass whooping too sometimes when you need one. So you can't ask me questions like that because when I see a kid that is very disrespectful, let me go down the line and see what's going on with that kid. Could that kid be hurt? Could they need somebody to listen to them? Could they need somebody to talk to them? They probably do need all of that. But when you're going to school, you doing crazy stuff, you bullying, you disrespecting teachers, and I'm teaching you everything to the contrary, and then you think you about to bring that stuff home to me because you have hormones and testosterone and a lot of estrogen going through your body because you're going through the teenage stages. Ain't nobody that came out my body gonna be bullying me in
But I
my.
think you can set limits though, Shug. That's why I teach parents. You can still set limits. I think parents just think when I talk to people about gentle parenting, I don't even talk to them about gentle parenting. We say conscious parenting over here. But
Yeah.
when I talk to them about that, they automatically, or not even me talking about, when I see people talk about it online, I'll say that. They automatically assume that there's no limits and parents can't set no boundaries. That is not what that is.
That's,
Like, you should be able to set rules in your house. You're not going to come in here and disrespect me. You're not going to talk to me in that tone. Let's go back and figure this out. Let's rewind and let's come out in a different way. If you want to say something, we won't be using profanity. We can talk in a subtle way. We can talk to each other in a manageable in a manner where both of us can understand and digest. You don't have to be disrespected. And I think a lot of parents, not saying you, but just a lot of parents I've seen immediately jump to they're disrespecting me and immediately jump to I'm gonna hit them, I'm gonna do this, and I'm like, you can set the limit. Like, who
mhm.
said you couldn't? You can do
Yeah.
that.
That's the thing. People don't like change. So if you've seen something done the same way for generations, from your great grandma to your mom to you, you're going to do the same thing with your children. Like, that's just how it goes. That's how people learn. We learn by observing and watching other people. We learn by looking at what's around us. And if we don't have anything to compare it to, we think that what we're learning is right until we get to a certain point and we realize it's not right. But I've been doing this for so long and my family been doing this for generations. I'm not going to be the one to change it now. So
Mhm.
it's a mindset that we get into. Disrespect is when you ask a question back. Your mom could tell you you need to go to the store, give me some milk, something like that. Well, why that kind of milk? Oh, now you disrespected me. Now that's a mistake. Now I need to hurt you or I need to do something and instill some fear in you. Auntie Ashley said something earlier about fearing her mother. And that's how, she, I guess, developed the level of respect for her mom. Because I'm scared. I can't beat you. And a lot of black families still think that if you instill fear in your child towards you, then like that sets them straight and they're good to go. No, they're scared of you, and then they're
Mhm.
going to be scared of the next authority figure. It's not respect. They don't, it's not that they have respect for you, but they fear you so much and they're going to become a fearful person. Not
Thank you.
everybody turns out that way. Let me say it's situational, it's different for different people, but I think that a lot of us, we think we're okay now, the way that we were raised, we're fine now, we're great. And no, we're not.
Thank you.
And you want to keep parenting your kids the way you were parented, but you're not okay. Like where is this okay at? Like I
A- Auntie Amber, people find you don't even understand how hard people find it. You can't say that. You can't tell somebody else you really not okay. Like, let me show you how it manifested. Let me show you what I'm seeing. No, I am okay. I'm okay. I'm successful. I made it. I'm okay. It's like there are parts that are not okay that manifested in a way that's not okay. And the whole idea of fear, I think, especially in our community, they conflate that with reverence. It's different when I'm scared versus when I revere you and I honor you and respect you in that way. And our community has constantly gotten that wrong. It's not that. If I fear you to the extent of I'm scared to even protect or defend myself against you if I think you're going too far, that's not reverence. It's not the same thing. But the black community from the church teaches honor thy mother and father, fear, reverence, respect. They conflate those terms. They're not all the same. And for me, I look at ways that like my mom, I think my mom did a wonderful job as a single mother. My mom did a wonderful, she had a community though. She had a village. So that's also the difference. My mom had a village. She had people in her village who kind of what's the word I'm looking for? They kind of challenged her. Like my one aunt, she challenges people in our family because she's always like, that's a child. Like, do they really understand? Or are you just the one that don't understand that you make mistakes as an adult? My aunt Vicky has always been the one to challenge it. So she's been the one to kind of like try to make the family change, try to make us see things differently. And she's older. She's the oldest. And she's the one that does that. So I don't even think it's so much a generational thing. It's a mindset thing. It's a mindset thing. And it's a what did I want as a child? This is what I'm going to try to do for these children in my community.
And y'all are all
And I
right.
do want to clarify real quick. I just want to clarify the fear because I don't I'm saying that it shouldn't be that you fear your parents, right? But you should have some kind of fear. Fear is a natural feeling, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
fear that if I don't go wash my ass right, I'm gonna get some kind of infection, right?
Okay,
Like I fear
that.
I fear the consequence. And this is why I'm giving that example. Because for my daughter, she told me one time that she wasn't scared of me. And I told her, I don't want you to be scared of me. That's not the point. I want you to be scared of the consequence. And what's the consequence? You in here half washing your ass and you're going to get some kind of yeast infection or something like that. I want you to be scared of that, not scared of me. So when I say like no fear, I mean you don't want to parent to the point where your child fears you so much that they can't even speak up, they can't even express themselves. But
Yes.
fearing the consequences of their actions, that's a whole different thing.
I'm
Like,
glad you
yeah, we
said
have
that
to
because I
have
was just
some
going up in
level of
there to be
fear.
like, y'all all tripping. All of y'all are crazy. And ain't nobody that came out my body gonna be not be scared enough that they think they about to put their hands on me. We're not doing that in my house. So take me to jail, take my license, do whatever it is that you need to do. But some kids, in the meantime, because remember, none only two of us on here have teenagers yet. My teenager's not out of pocket. Not yet. But I just remember being a teenager. I watch teenagers. I actually counsel a lot of teenagers who are in that household. Some of them are raising hell. Some of them are fighting and putting their hands on their parents. And you have the parents that are like, I don't want to parent them how I was parented. But he punched you in your stomach, sis. He punched you in your face, sis. That's what I'm talking about. There is no fear because there has been that gentle parenting to the point of disrespect. And there's probably a lot of other things that went into that factor. But in the meantime, in the time where you and that person are head to head, everybody's not thinking rationally and thinking about gentle parenting or conscious parenting and conscious teenagering. I know teens that are punching their parents and they're like, I don't want to parent them how I was parented. I'm going to floor you. Come get me, Keish.
I
But
And
see,
the
know.
reason why
but
I'm
my
for
question,
you,
Damn,
but my
wait
you
a
know
minute.
damn well that your household is not like that, and you know
No,
damn well that you've been observing how you were raised and how you want your teens to be. There's a reason why your teens are not doing that.
yes.
So
Mhm.
I want to give you more credit than what you give it, because your teens are raised in a different way, and you know it, Shug.
No,
Exactly.
mine are, but I'm talking about when you got them teens, because everybody on here ain't raising their kids like I'm raising mine.
True,
You got
true.
people who are in conflict, in battle in their house, and we giving them perfect scenarios, and it's just not. It's not math ain't
I,
mathing,
I put that back on the parents.
Thank you. It still fall back to the
Do.
parents
and
I
it
was
because
about to
might,
most,
say the same
and it
thing.
might. But in the
yeah,
meantime, how do you correct it? Because when a parent comes in with their eye black or their stomach beat in, you can't be like, "Well, that was your damn fault." What are you going to say to these parents? How are
I'm
they
gonna
parenting that in the meantime?
I'm gonna say what boundaries and limits are you setting? And I will correct that as far as when it comes to gentle parenting and conscious parenting. Like, you can still set limits, right? You don't have to allow a person, doesn't matter if you're a kid or not, to hit you. What about you is allowing a kid to punch you? Like, what is happening here? Who done punched you back in the day? And you thought that was okay? Like, there's no way. Like, you
Mhm.
as an adult think that that's okay, that a kid is punching you and actually leaving bruises. There's something going on with that parent who thinks that that is okay. I don't know which that person is seeing. I don't know what they allow, but there's no parent who should be gentle parenting or using conscious parenting allowing physical abuse from a kid.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying nobody's gonna allow it and be like, "Well, this is my fault." Nobody's doing
No,
that. People are in the
no.
meantime. That's why you have reactive parents, because sometimes while we're raising kids, we're not thinking of all of these things. I just gave y'all like 5 examples of black parenthood. People, single parents, a parent is on drugs. My parent was on drugs. Our household was turned literally upside down. So you're getting these parents who are not doing conscious parenting because they don't have those resources. We do what we can do at the time with the information that we are given. And a lot of parents are
Mhm.
doing the best that they can do. But when you have a teenager challenging you, I'm not saying just beat them up every single time, but I'm saying if you have a teenager that puts their hands on you, all that stuff, that you know what happens to the frontal lobe, it goes out the window.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that. The frontal lobe does go out of the window. Again, there needs to be some sort of intensive treatment, whether that's that kid going away for a while for respite or something to reset. Like,
So
you have to set the limit. Period. There is no, like, you got to stop that immediately.
yeah.
Immediately.
My mother was very clear. If I had put my hands on her, there wasn't gonna be a fight. She was putting me out. She said it. I will send you somewhere before I let you stay here and we kill each other if you ever were to do that. I will send you somewhere for correction because clearly if we've gotten that far, there's now I will be reacting. Now I will be coming from a different place. So I know that I've already lost the reins if you don't put your hands on me in that way. If you don't punch me in my face, I lost the reins a while ago. So it's beyond me now. And I knew that.
And
But
that
that
person
also
needs, well,
goes.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that parent needs to probably need intensive individual therapy as to why they thought it was okay for a child to hit them and abuse them. Because if that's the case, there may be that person may have been physically, emotionally abused in their childhood and then went to the extreme end on trying not to do that to their parent, to their child, and then they let all boundaries, all limits go. And it's like, whoa, whoa, not the permissive parenting. We don't want that. There's a difference
Mhm.
between permissive and authoritative parenting and conscious parenting. This is difference. So I would say that child would need to be removed from the home, not from like CPS or anything like that, but just a respite so they can get intense therapy and a mom or dad or whoever get intense therapy too. Therapy too.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just gonna go back to the why. Like Auntie Suge
Yeah.
always says, what's the why? Why does this kid feel comfortable punching
Mm-hmm.
you? If you
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a home where your mom squares up and boxes you every time you make a mistake or every time, she feels like you're not doing what you're supposed to do, that's a behavior that you've learned. Like you've learned that, but no matter who the person is, whether it's your parent, a teacher, a friend, whoever, you also don't know what kind of environment this kid grows up in, what they see on a daily basis. There are so many factors that could lead to a child hitting their parent like that. But one of the things I did want to bring up too is that sometimes it's the emotion, right? And the kid is angry. Obviously, if you're going to punch your mama in the face, you're angry. But I think the thing that we forget is that anger involves a range of other emotions within that, especially for teenagers and especially for teenage boys. It's not always, I'm just mad. It's not always mad. It could be that he did something and he felt bad about it. And the only way that he knew how to deal with that was to become angry. It could be that he felt insignificant or he felt like he wasn't important, wasn't appreciated, whatever it is, by something that the mom said or did. And he didn't know how to deal with that but to get angry. It could be that he, had some fear, right? Was scared of his mom, scared that if I don't defend myself first, she gonna do something to me first. So he responded. So there are so many different emotions within anger. And for teenage boys, it's often just put like, you mad. You just such a mad and angry person. Nah, he's anxious, he's fearful, maybe depressed, maybe he don't feel that great about himself. Those emotions are often hidden under anger when it comes to teenagers. So when we talk about the why, why did he feel comfortable doing this or why did he respond to his mom in this way? There could be so many reasons that have nothing to do with the parent. There could be so many reasons that have a lot to do with the parent and what this child has saw. So I have a hard time blaming the kid unless I dig in and I find like there's no other reason. It's just you as the kid, like it's your fault. Other than that, there are so many other factors that go into that. I'm not saying I approve of a child punching their mama. I'm not saying that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying there are so many reasons as to why it can happen, and a lot of it isn't on the child.
And even with adults, it's emotions behind anger. With adults too,
In the
we
meantime,
angry.
I'm gonna speak to our community because some people are really going through it. In the meantime, what you can do, because hindsight is always 2020. Monday morning quarterbacker is the best. I'm the best quarterback on Monday. On Sunday, I was in the shit, right? So when you do have somebody challenging you in your house, directly in your face, directly at that moment, the best thing that you can do is if you have a resource, call that resource and they can come and remove that child and they can let you guys calm down. And at the same, you know what I mean, after you kind of make some decisions and see what might have happened, because we always have our own fault in every situation, then maybe think of some respite care. Somebody else might need to take care of that child for a while. Or maybe, you know what I mean, going to go get some therapy later and going to go find out what's going on in your child and what's going on in yourself and going to go get parenting classes. So, no, I don't agree with body slamming kids, but I will say this one more time. In the meantime, if you are being challenged and somebody is abusing you in your house, you're not going to let another adult on the street abuse you, and you don't let your kids abuse you. And so if you have to
Mm-hmm.
choke hold somebody real quick so that they can stop putting their hands on you and then put them in another room and you go somewhere, Auntie Shug said it. You heard it here first.
I mean, you still got to defend yourself. I'm all for self defense. You got to realize that a teenager is, so, a lot of teenagers are adult size. So you are talking about now I have to defend myself. Like this is self defense too. My teenager just punched me. Okay, I need to defend and protect myself, especially if they keep going. So you do have to do that in that moment. It's not a, it's you, in that moment you're not thinking about nothing else. But that also reminds me, Auntie Shug, you said when you were first talking about that, they lose you as the parent. That prefrontal lobe is gone at that point. However, as an adult, yours is gone. As a child, theirs ain't even developed yet. They
So
ain't
we
they ain't
both
there.
crazy. That's it. No,
So we
nobody.
both crazy in
Yeah,
that
we both
moment.
crazy.
I'm sorry. I disagree with I mean, I get teenagers, specifically teenage boys, they big, they can hurt you, but I just don't see the benefit in you like fighting your child back. Like restraining, yes. Restraining them, bear hold, whatever you got to do to get them to chill out and calm down. And then, like Auntie Shug said, separate. But full on fighting your child, like that's literally the contradiction. Like it's the issue here is that your child loses their shit, they hit you, you lose your shit, and you react and hit them back. You are doing exactly what you don't want to model for your kid. So I'm sorry, I can't agree with fighting your kid. Like my kid hits me, I might be in a different mindset if they hit me, but objectively looking at this situation, I don't agree with it. Restraining them, cool. Fighting, hitting them back, I'm not on board with that. I don't condone that.
Two things, Amber, I'm gonna tell you. Size plays a part in this for me, and then it doesn't because Auntie Shug know, and I'm gonna be real transparent. When Zeph was little, she had to be like 8 or 9. She swung on me. Now she was mad. I knew she was mad. She swung on me. Even at that age, I blacked out. Now I didn't beat her, but I blacked out and I pushed her against the wall because I was like, "Have you lost your mind? Putting your hands on me? You've lost your mind. Clearly, I clean blacked out as a you don't know what you're gonna do until you get in that situation where a child has swung on you. But also, it's the idea of when I say size for teenage kids, think about some football players in high school. 16, 17, 18-year-old boys, football player size boys. I'm sorry. I don't think that I would be rational in that moment if a big football player size teenage boy just started swinging on me. I'm going to swing back to defend myself.
I only have one thing to say about that. There's a lead up to that escalation.
Yes.
Exactly.
There's a lead up to this.
And that you're getting at where I'm trying to get
at. There are signs before y'all get to swing it. There are signs.
I really do not. I don't care the situation. I don't condone fighting your kid.
No.
I just don't. I'm not.
I'm saying like there's escalation before y'all get to hitting, which means that that is your point of entry to de-escalate.
To de-escalate.
It gets to escalating. Like that is where I think parents miss that gap because they're too busy trying to be reactive instead of proactive. And so that is what I would teach parents. Like, okay, wait a minute.
You
got that. Y'all got the swinging. Yes. So what happened before y'all was swinging? Like there had to be words exchanged. There had to be something. So why couldn't you as the adult walk away? To me, I think a lot of times, specifically in our community, I said this before in our old episode, we lose the power out in the world. So we bring that into the home because that's the only place we can have power. And instead of us taking a step back and being like, you know what? I don't know why you're upset right now, but we need to take 5 because I don't want this to go any further. Let's regroup in 5. You can go to your room and be upset. I'm going over here to be upset. Then we'll come back. I wonder what would happen if it's something like that. Not exactly, but if there was a point of entry like that could prevent y'all from fighting each other. And then not only is that preventing a fight, but that's also teaching you how to regulate before you escalate. That's all I'm asking.
Modeling. That's what you want to model for your kids. If you lose your shit the second your kid says something that you perceive as disrespectful and y'all start going back and forth and you lost your shit, you're the adult here.
You're the adult.
Like for me, you are the adult. It gets to the point where your kid hits you and now you want to full on fight your kid because you couldn't regulate yourself. Like it's the adult in the situation for me. You losing your shit, blacking out and like doing whatever to your kid. Like
now,
for me, I just don't see myself just completely losing it like that. Like I would be pissed. I'm not saying I would be like calm in the situation. Oh, you hit me in the face. Okay, I ain't gonna do nothing. I'd be pissed, but I'm not gonna lose my shit to the point where I'm fighting my kid or put like I don't see that.
Get my bail money.
That's the thing too, Amber. We really have to. Honestly, we got to start teaching what is disrespect because that's where people go left.
No, we don't. Because you know what? People have different levels of disrespect for them. Like me in my house. Yeah, like I think like you're talking about how we were taught everything is disrespect.
Everything is not disrespectful. It's not disrespectful for your kid to have a freaking opinion. I don't care how you measure disrespect. It is not disrespectful for your child to have an opinion, because then you get mad when that child grows up and they don't know how to speak up for themselves or say nothing. Now you're trying to reverse what you done. You told them everything was disrespectful when they said it to you. You told them to stick up for themselves, but the second that they stick up for themselves against you, it's disrespect. That's a problem. You are confusing children who are already in a confusing stage of life.
And you can teach people, you can teach your child how to talk to you. Like, I don't understand why parents are like, well, you can't have an opinion. Yes, they can, but they can say it in a way like, hey, I need you to bring your voice down to about 5. If you want to express your opinion, you can write it down. Or we can talk about it. Let's have a special time set aside every night for connection time. Then let's talk about, maybe a rule I set earlier that you didn't like. I noticed that you were upset about it. Let's talk about that. Like, there are ways that you can do this. I don't like
That would have
I don't
had
know
to
if
be
parents
modeled.
think that they don't have. I think parents think that they don't have that option. You
The
have
option.
the option. To the audience, you have the option to set rules in your home that will be helpful not only for your child, but for you. We do not want to make parenting hell. Okay? These are 4 professionals on here who is not trying to make parenting hell for you. Parenting is already hard. So let's be able to give you some options so we can take all this little bit of the stress off of you. Parenting is just difficult. And I think that y'all need to know that y'all do have options other than hitting or swinging on each other. Y'all got other options.
So that's why I gave the example, is because in the meantime, in between time, like when you're actually in it, all of those things went out the window. But I do like the way we gave okay, let's stop, look, and then listen to see what's going on. Like, because you got to know how you get there. You got to figure out how you got there. But that's after the incident. So in the meantime, yeah, that's why you have to separate and stuff like that. And then maybe so you're talking about going forward if you haven't already done it. And then I know that sometimes we're in disenfranchised households and we sometimes don't have the resources, especially for some boys. Sometimes they don't have that man in their house. Boys respond different to men. And I'm not about to sit up here. I don't care. I'm sorry. Men and women raise kids different. Boys respond differently to the bass in a male's voice, to the parenting from a man. When my husband is gone, my kids do act different. And I do all of this conscious parenting and I do all of this stuff and they still act different. And when he comes back, there's a different level of respect that my boys show their father than they show me. They love me, they don't disrespect me, but the first time he says something is done. Abraham is not a hitter. He don't put his hands on. We don't hit the kids. We really don't. Like, I don't have to. I'm not opposed to a light little slap on the butt when they're small. I told y'all, let me tell y'all how to do it. Some people don't know how to do it. I've done, and everybody don't have to agree with this. That's fine. My kids are healthy. If you're 5, I'm swatting you on your butt 5 times at the most extreme whenever I can't get you to actually just get it together. But as they gotten older, I don't have to do that anymore because I've learned different ways of discipline over time. So I discipline age appropriate. Everybody's not going to stop whooping their kids. I'm not even going to say that that's going to happen. You do in your household what you do for you. And as long as you are not abusing somebody and hurting somebody, then there's a difference. I was spanked and I will go out here and venture and say, I'm okay. Nobody hurt me. It's not a trauma for me. I'm fine with that. But my husband does not put his hands on the kids. And when he speaks, what do he say? When I speak, the ground shake. For real.
God.
Y'all know I'm dealing with a fool. But for real, like when he talks, they respond different. It's an immediate response. They hear that, nyah, 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 and then for him to hear, it's like God's voice.
All right. So to wrap up, we talked about emotionality in children this episode and how us as parents can respond to that, should respond to that, some different ways to respond to that. I want the audience to really think about how do mothers and fathers see this differently? Even adult children now, as a you're an adult daughter and an adult son now. How do you see it differently, and how does that cause you to parent your own children? Do you follow the same pattern? Do you make changes? How do we look at this and still wanting the best for our children, actually make it better for our children? How do we do that? Because we can't do the same things that could have harmed us or caused us certain issues. We can't keep repeating that and saying it's just okay. So how do we do that? How do we move forward? How do we get better. Because when you know better, you do better.